Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French Doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Welcome, Catholic Pilgrims. Glad to have you back. Today, our topic is on external humility. And while I know not everyone will be listening to this in the month of June, I think it's a great time to discuss pride and humility. If you have young listeners, you may want to wait to listen. I wrote something the other day when we entered into the month of June that said, quote, "Instead of pride, let us have humility and draw closer to the Sacred Heart of Jesus," unquote. The wide majority of people were very supportive of what I wrote, but a few voiced their displeasure at my supposed quote-unquote dig at the LGBT community. One guy said sarcastically, "That's right, you can't be proud of your children, your families, or being an American." Now, all this is to ignore the fact that there is no day to collectively celebrate children. There is no day to collectively celebrate being proud of your family. There is only one day to celebrate being quote-unquote proud to be an American. According to GLAAD, a pro-LGBT organization, there are 94 calendar days set aside to honor or celebrate some group within this community. 94 days. External humility, a good topic to discuss. So let's open our book to chapter 4 of the third part. "Borrow empty vessels, not a few," said Eliseus to the poor widow, "and pour oil into them. And before we can receive the grace of God into our hearts, they must be thoroughly empty of all self-glory." The kestrel has a peculiar property of frightening away birds of prey with its looks and cries, for which reason the dove seeks it beyond all other birds, and lives fearlessly in its neighborhood. And so humility repulses Satan and preserves in us the gifts and graces of the Holy Spirit. For this reason, all the saints, and especially the King of Saints and his mother, ever honored and cherished this virtue above all others. We call vainglory that which we seek for ourselves, either for that which is not in us or being in us, is not our own, or being in us and our own, is not worthy to be glorified in. Noble birth, the favor of the great, popular esteem, are not in ourselves. They come either from our forefathers or from the opinion of others. Some are proud and conceited because they have a fine horse, a plume in their hat, or are magnificently attired. But who cannot perceive the absurdity of this? Since if anyone has reason to be proud, it surely is the horse, the ostrich, or the tailor. And how very contemptible it is to rest our hope of esteem in a horse, a feather, or a garment. Another thinks of his well-trimmed beard and mustache, or his well-curled hair, his delicate hands, or of his accomplishment in dancing, music, and so on. But is it not very contemptible to try to enhance his worth or his reputation through such foolish and frivolous things? Others, who have acquired a little science, demand the respect and honor of the world on that account, as if all must needs come to learn of them and bow before them. Such men we call pedants. Others pride themselves on their personal beauty and think that everyone is admiring them. All of them in their turn are utterly silly, foolish, and impertinent, and their glory in such empty things we call vain, absurd, and frivolous. You may judge of real worth as of real balm, which is tried in water, and if it sinks and remains at the bottom, it is known to be precious and costly. And so in order to know whether a man is really wise, learned, generous, and noble, observe whether his gifts make him humble, modest, and submissive. If so, they are genuine. But if they float to the surface and would fain display themselves, Be sure that in proportion as they make a show, so are they less worthy. Those pearls which are formed or fed in the wind and thunder leave only a pearly shell without any substance. And so those virtues and attractive qualities which have their root and support in pride, self-sufficiency, and vanity have but the outward show of excellence and are without sap, marrow, or solidity. Honor, rank, and dignity are like the saffron, which flourishes and increases most when it is trodden underfoot. All the value of beauty is gone when its possessor is self-conscious. To be pleasing, it should be forgotten. And science becomes contemptible when it is puffed up and degenerates into pedantry. If we are punctilious about rank, title, and precedence, we both lay our claims open to investigation and contradiction and render them vile and despicable. For that honor which means something when willingly offered becomes contemptible when it is sought after, demanded, or exacted. When the peacock displays his gorgeous plumes, he lays bare also all his deformities. And those flowers which are beautiful in their native soil soon wither if we handle them. And as they who inhale the mandragora from afar off and for a brief space find it very delicious, but those who inhale it near and for long become drowsy and ill, so worldly honors are acceptable to him who receives them indifferently without resting in them or seeking them eagerly, but they become very dangerous and hurtful to him who clings to and takes delight in them. The desire and pursuit of virtue tend to render us virtuous, but the desire and pursuit of honors tend to make us odious and despicable. A really great mind will not waste itself on such empty goods as rank, honor, and form. It has higher pursuits and leaves these for the weak and vain. He who can procure pearls will not be satisfied with shells, and those who aim at virtue do not trouble themselves about honors. Of course, each man may enter into and remain in his own sphere without lack of humility, so long as he does it with indifference and without effort. Just as vessels coming from Peru laden with gold and silver bring also a number of monkeys and parrots, which cost nothing and add but little to their freight, so those who aspire to be virtuous may well accept their rightful rank and honors, but always without bestowing much care or thought on them, and without being involved in cares, vexations, disputes, and anxieties in consequence. I'm not alluding here to those invested with public dignities, nor to special and important occasions in which everyone is bound to maintain a fitting dignity with prudence and discretion, combined with charity and courtesy. I think we should start with looking at the sarcastic statement posed at me that I referenced in the beginning. Can you be proud of your children, your family, or being an American? Can I be proud to be a woman? Is to be proud of something always wrong? So I went digging to look at exactly what pride has historically been understood as. And according to Catholic Answers, theologically speaking, pride is an excessive love or unjustified love of oneself. St. Francis says, quote, "We call vainglory that which we seek for ourselves," unquote. Catholic Answers goes on to say, quote, "Colloquially speaking, pride is used to signify pleasure or satisfaction in those things or persons that reflect well on a person or those related to that person. In the colloquial sense, when pride is justified and not excessive, there's nothing wrong with being proud of oneself or of others," unquote. So when I'm proud of my children's character and their good works, when I'm proud of my ancestors or my family, or even the fact that I'm an American, all those things are justified to be proud of. But Catholic Answers gives an especially important add-on. Quote, "It is more spiritually edifying to cultivate a sense of gratitude rather than pride, particularly when it concerns those things that cannot be credited entirely to one's own accomplishment. It would be better to say that one is grateful for the graces to be Catholic and to have a successful marriage. Gratitude fosters a sense of humility because it focuses on others, such as God and neighbor, rather than on oneself." Unquote. When an entire month is dedicated to celebrating sexual preferences and having pride in that, that is an excessive love and a deeply unjustified celebration of oneself. When we expect people to celebrate us or our lifestyle, that is excessive. St. Francis says, quote, that a thing becomes contemptible when it is sought after, demanded, or exacted, unquote. Instead, we should be, as St. Francis says, quote, "those who aspire to be virtuous may well accept their rightful rank or honors, but always without bestowing much care or thought on them," unquote. And I would add that they are grateful for the gifts God has bestowed on them and never demand celebration. Each one of us struggles in some way with living out external humility, and so it is good to think about the ways that we can work on being more humble and grateful instead of prideful. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I'll see you back here soon to discuss internal humility. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.